The first broccoli of the harvest. The kids are going to be so excited.
Hey guys, today is just a quick little review on this, the Fallkniven F1 Pro. Now, about a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I did a kind of summary of all the Fallkniven range. I've had basically all the Fallknivens at one point or another. Something about the design, its cleanness, its sort of kitchen knife aesthetic, black and silver, really does it for me. Plus, I've never had a bad experience with one. I've never had any of the issues that some other folks have had. So I've kind of kept coming back. I certainly prefer them in the great Fallkniven Bark River debate. That's just how this cookie's crumbled. Fallkniven knives, if you don't know, are Japanese-made knives designed by a Swedish company, sort of sold as the Swedish kind of military style knife, but they are all made in Japan out of Japanese steels and materials using Japanese craftsmanship. So it's kind of a best of both worlds type situation, if you will. So looking back over my range, I've had the A1, I've had the A2, I've had the A1 Pro, the S1, the S1X, the A1X, basically all of them. And really, the point of this video, I suppose, is my collection has been whittled down to just two. I suppose this is more of a me thing than the knife thing, because all of the knives, apart from the A1X, which I didn't really like, all of the knives have been rather well received by me, and I have enjoyed my time with all of them, but it's always come down to that crunch. I need to pay a bill, so one of the knives goes. They generally hold their value fairly well. So these are the two that I've kept. One for sentimental reasons. This is like the first nice, properly nice knife I bought. First time I probably spent more than 200 Australian dollars on a knife. So that's why this one still persists. It's almost like a bit of a channel staple, and to be honest, still an eminently usable knife. And then I've kept this because it feels a bit like a better iteration of the F1, and all of my other big knife jobs were kind of done better by other blades. So my A2 that I had was a nice big chopping knife, but I've generally found that apart from kind of staged YouTuber-y stuff where you want to take a big shiny knife out, I'm usually using my big blades in the garden, and I have generally taken to preferring carbon steel, simple carbon steel for those big blades. My 5160 Gurkha Kukri, although the handle sucks because this ornate woodenness, it does a lot of work for me. I love this TRC Apocalypse for like a big swanky fixed blade knife that I might take insta camping. But really, it's either this Gurkha Kukri or it's my sort of modified Becker BK9. Yes, the Philistine's still loving his 1095 steel, and this is certainly busted out from time to time, actually relatively frequently. And if not that, I'm digging out the old Emerson hatchet. I've been using that a whole bunch as well. So it's really come down to necessity and what needs to stick around. Other knives I have around for review samples, like this Cold Steel SRK, things like that. But in terms of a user, a companion user, this has been the one that stuck around. And even this one's time gets divided with my 80 knives little companion blade here as well in Nitro V steel. So this one, I've got one in S45 as well, but this is the one that I actually use because it sort of started to get dirty and I just kept on getting it dirty. So these two guys here, my little belt camp companion style knives. That being said though, I'm generally going with something a bit bigger around here, if not a little hawk. So anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about this knife. Let's show it next to some other knives to get a sense of scale, and then we'll talk about it with the original F1. Here it is next to a Mora Companion Basic, I think, not the heavy duty one. And next to a Spyderco Delica and a Buck 110. A Cold Steel SRK. Ooh. About the same thickness. An excuse to show off my TRC Apocalypse. That's a chonky boy. And my 10-inch Gurkha Cookie. And here it is next to the Benchmade Azaria, the Ontario stubby pilot knife thing, and the K-bar. This is just a normal sized K-bar, being the Space Force variant. Check it. And here it is next to the standard Fallkniven F1. Fallkniven, whatever. So looking at it, there's actually a fair few differences. It's almost an entirely different knife, apart from the rough size and I guess purpose. So looking at it to begin with, you've got some pretty distinct differences in the blade grind. So not only is it a thicker blade by a good millimeter or so, a notable difference, not just a slight one, it's also got a lower saber style grind rather than the full convex that the F1 has. So this does convex, but only from this middle line here, as you can sort of see there. The steel is, what's this one? The laminated COS, which is a decent upgrade over VG10. It's still not a powder steel, but it's a nice pure alloy that, in my experience, holds an edge for almost 2/3 to 100%, so 75 to 100% increase on edge retention. It's definitely a notable increase there. Moving back to the handle, they've altered the shape a little tiny bit and they've put on this front sort of steel guard there, I guess you'd call it. Initially, when these came out on the really heavy use videos like the A1 videos and things like that, these guards would come a bit loose, but I haven't seen much of that lately. And yeah, on the standard F1, you've just got a standard sort of thermo run rubber plastic style handle, which is still what the rest of this is made of. In terms of contouring, fairly similar. You get a slight bit more handle on the F1 Pro, and I think the forward guard is just a little bit more secure, just a tiny little bit of extra size on it to keep that knife secure in hand. It does feel, due to the handle feeling slightly thinner perhaps, or maybe just slightly taller, it feels a little bit more secure in your hand. That being said though, this F1 is really, really old. And a lot of this is probably smoothed out over the years of use. So yeah, this is probably one of my, if not my oldest fixed blade knife now. I've got rid of most of my other ones, and it is definitely still a favorite. Main difference, of course, here is going to be price. You're going to pay probably an extra $100 for the F1 Pro. The sheaths are very similar in terms of function. The F1 Pro has sort of beefed theirs out just a little bit. They've put a plastic cover over this little piece of plastic that locks in under the tang there, so I guess that can't be wedged shut or have anything wedged against it as easily. These sheaths are designed to be frozen and still be able to retrieve the knife, so they're not the best sheaths in terms of stealth or rattle. They're always a bit rattly. The button still goes across the lanyard hole, which was something that people call out the F1 for, quite rightly, I guess, if you like your lanyards, but I don't, so it doesn't really bother me. But yeah, still essentially the same sheath, just kind of a bit different stylistically. So a good way of sharpening these Fallknivens, I mean, you can sharpen them on anything. Just because it's a convex edge or a convex profile doesn't mean that it's going to be anything but the absolute edge that's going to need touching up most of the time. So you can still just use a hand stone or whatever, you know, just your standard, you know, definitely works, no problems at all. But if you want to sort of keep as much of that apex convex as well, you can make like an impromptu convex sharpening system using something soft. So I'm going to use this rubber floor matting. You buy it to like big tiles of it to put like in the back of a ute tray or something. So I'm going to use this. It's got a bit of squish to it, and I'm just going to epoxy a sheet of sandpaper to it as well. So that will make a nice sharpening system for these kind of knives. Let's do it. Best part is you're going to instantly need to use it once you've made it because you've just dulled your knife cutting thick rubber. This is an 800 grit, fine for a working end. So my uses of this are basically as a utility knife, often in lieu of a folder, or maybe forced up into the role that a larger knife should be doing. And at all those jobs, it's done absolutely fine. This is a good, tough stainless steel, definitely answering a lot of the problems that others had, never me, but others had with the VG10 on the original, being a little bit prone to chipping. I've thrown this one around and pretty badly abused it, and it's still a nice, sharp edge. The convex edge does hold really well, and it's a very durable edge. That does still manage a fair degree of fine work. So you can feather with the factory convex from a Fallkniven, even on this one where it is a lower saber style. So very, very cool. I really like the handle. It's nice and neutral and it fills the hand nicely. It's all I want from a fixed blade handle. No grooves, nothing funny, maybe a slight tummy to the middle part. Really, really good. The end here, the exposed tang, nutcracker, whatever, still don't really use it very much. It's good to show that the tang is thick and all the way through, but really for me, it's a bit of a non-event. I really like these Fallkniven sheaths. I find that they are exactly what I need from a knife sheath. The knife pulls out really well, but not so easily that it will fall out. This will pass the cartwheel test. Even without the strap done up. So absolutely fine for me. I'm not sneaking around trying to kill people, so I don't care if it goes like this. It doesn't trouble me at all. But if you do care about that, you can get yourself a leather sheath from Fallkniven for about an extra $30 or similar. Problem with these is they're pretty pricey. So this AD knife, Alex Dron, he's a really good knife maker. You should look him up on Instagram. I think it's kind of hard to get a knife from him these days, but very talented man. This is about the same cost as this. In fact, probably even a little bit less. And it's a handmade piece in a comparably good sort of semi-stainless or stainless, is it nitro V? Yeah, stainless kind of steel. So probably about similar in terms of actual, success as a knife. This one's probably slightly nicer ground for fine work, just given it's a slightly thinner, longer to terminate flat grind. But really, to be able to pay full price for a factory made, Japanese produced, shipped to Sweden and sent everywhere knife, when you can get something handmade, it's a little bit of a question mark. But then, that being said, try getting something handmade within like a reasonable time frame. Just scratching that buying itch probably not going to be able to happen from a regarded maker unless you're really lucky like I was and have a friend that gets you onto the good up and coming guys like 80 knives. It's right in front of me, Jesus. Anyway, overall, I don't have a huge amount to say that you probably haven't already heard about the F1 Pro. Apart from that, I've used it for a great long time now. I've used it for at least a year. Haven't reviewed it yet. I've been sort of just keeping it in the wings, putting it through various things. I've resharpened it several times, and it's a great knife. And I find it to be worth the money. Whether or not you do or not, that's going to be a you thing. But for me, it certainly passes all the arbitrary kind of boxes needing ticked in my mind to say, good companion knife, would recommend, a solid B+. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.